All right, guys, today let's talk about insulin. So, this is how it goes. When we eat a meal that contains carbs, our blood sugar begins to increase. Since blood sugar can't go directly into your cells, it needs insulin to get it there, okay? So, your pancreas senses a rise in blood sugar after you eat carbs and releases insulin in response. The insulin binds to the cells, which signals them to absorb the sugar from the bloodstream, from the food that you just ate, okay? So insulin is often referred to as the key that unlocks the cell to allow sugar to enter and be used for energy. If you have more sugar in your body than it needs, insulin helps your body store that sugar in your liver or in muscle in the form of glycogen. So in this way, when your blood sugar levels become low, you have extra stores in your liver that can be released back into the bloodstream. The role of insulin is basically to regulate blood sugar levels and keep them in the normal range. So every time blood sugar rises, your pancreas secretes more insulin. Okay. The problem arises when insulin becomes chronically elevated in the body. Insulin happens to also be the main fat storage hormone in the body. So it tells the fat to store, or tells the fat cells to store fat, and it prevents stored fat from being broken down and released so it can be used for energy. So think about it this way. Insulin can only be present in the body if we have elevated blood sugar. We can only have elevated blood sugar when we recently consumed a meal. Therefore, if we are in an energy surplus from recently consuming a meal, insulin gets released to store this available energy. The last thing the body will want to do is break down its energy stores in the form of fat for energy, because you already have energy available in the body. So it's not going to dig into the fat stores to break it down. It doesn't want to create extra work. It's smart, kind of lazy. So when people are obese or are chronically eating a diet filled with processed foods and fast burning carbs, insulin is just constantly being released by the pancreas. Eventually, our cells stop responding to the increase in insulin. In other words, the cells become kind of resistant or numb to the increased insulin. So when this occurs, the pancreas still does its job by detecting more and more increases in the bloodstream and releasing more and more insulin in the bloodstream to try to regulate the blood sugar level and bring it back down. The problem is that insulin receptors on the cells don't respond and are not sensitive to the rise in insulin anymore. So they become insulin resistant. The end result of all this is chronically high amounts of insulin in the blood and chronically elevated levels of blood sugar. So, do you think this person who has this going on is able to burn its fat stores? No, definitely not. They're never able to dig into their fat stores. They are in a constant state of energy surplus mode. And the chronic elevated insulin levels in the body will not allow the breakdown of fat stores, resulting in a person getting more and more overweight or obese. This also leads to chronic release of stress hormones too, which put your body in a chronic stress response. These hormones increase heart rate, cardiovascular output, and blood pressure. This also causes the hippocampus of the brain to shrink. Scary. And can decrease your ability to sleep. So you can get a lot of tension headaches, have decreased sex drive, get low levels of growth hormone, and continue to just have really strong cravings for sugar and unhealthy fats. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, the Journal of Applied Physiology, and the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry, all three of them state that a significant reduction in insulin resistance happens with intermittent fasting. By stopping the development of insulin resistance through intermittent fasting, it can prevent almost every other chronic disease out there, especially metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. In fact, people who are insulin resistant have 93% greater risk for developing heart disease which is the leading cause of death in the world right now. So intermittent fasting basically gives our body a break from eating throughout the day, as we talked about, turning our bodies from energy surplus machine into energy deficit machine. And when we take a break from constantly feeding our body, our blood sugar begins to normalize when we don't have that increase in blood sugar and we're not releasing insulin to combat it. So since insulin prevents fat stores from being burned, we finally give our body a chance to actually burn stored fat, especially around the midsection, and start to build up our insulin sensitivity again. When we build up our insulin sensitivity, we begin to prevent every single chronic disease out there, reducing our chances of heart disease by 93%.